Hello and welcome to Books in the World. I'm John DeCoco, your host of this episode. Books in the World is produced by the Cape Cod Writer Center and the Cape Media Center. The Writer Center was established over 6 decades ago and sponsors a 4-day writers conference every summer on Cape Cod. The role of Books in the World is to show how writers, illustrators, editors, and others in the literary field play their roles in publishing and other media. This show has been continuously broadcast since 1978, making it the longest running program of its kind in the United States. Today we welcome Peter Abrahams, writing under the pen name of Spencer Quinn, the author of Mrs. Plansky Goes Rogue. Spencer Quinn, Peter Abrahams is the Edgar Allan Poe award-winning author of 48 novels, including the New York Times and USA Today best-selling Chet and Bernie series, Mrs. Plansky's Revenge, The Right Side, and Oblivion, as well as the Bowser and Birdie series for young readers. He lives here on Cape Cod with his wife. Just to give you a sense of our guest here, I have to read a few of the actual titles from his Chet and Bernie series. Chet is a dog and the unreliable narrator of these books. Heart of Barkness, Paw and Order, A Fistful of Collars, Up on the Wooftop, and the title, which is so bad it's great, Bark to the Future. Have you no shame, sir?
Well, I probably don't, but it's not even relevant because I think every one of those titles was a reader suggestion. After the series began, Chet, okay, we're not talking about Mrs. Plansky now,
Not
we're
yet,
on to
not
Chet
yet.
and Bernie. Chet is a narrating dog. He's not, this is the key to the whole thing. It's in the first person. He's a narrating dog, not a talking dog. So you, the reader, know what's going on in his mind, but the characters in the book do not. And what's going on in his mind is often unreliable in terms of what really is happening in like the case. Anyway, readers who gravitated toward it began to send in titles, either emailing me or Chet has a Facebook page. And the titles that were coming in, to my taste, were better than what I was coming up with. So now, this is great, because this is a chance where I can invite people to do this. If you send in a title that I use for a Chet and Bernie book on pub day, when the book comes out, you get a signed copy.
Nice.
So
nice.
all those titles that you slightly disparaged, it's not my fault.
I love them. I love them. Before we get into the book, tell us a little bit about your writer's journey, where you grew up, where you went to school, what got you into writing?
My writer's journey. I'm very fortunate in that my mom was a writer, and she taught me most of what I know, still to this day, probably by the time I was 11 years old. She had a Socratic kind of method. She would say, okay, here's an example of, she would say, can you say that in fewer words? What's the exact right word for this?
Wow.
Can you make this sentence not just about the character, but about the plot? Can you advance the story at the same time? Make one word do the work of 3. Never use connecting words. She hated connecting words. Like, however, nevertheless, to be sure. She said sentences should connect through the force of the ideas connecting. So if you find you're using a lot of connecting words, go back and rethink. Anyway, so I knew all this stuff as a kid, and it wasn't just that. She also worked on the imagination. I'm not saying it was work, it was always playful. But she said, don't be like anybody else. Push everything as far as you can while still having it credible. In other words, if you come to the mine, don't just dig out a few little shovelfuls. Dig out the whole mine. Anyway, I knew all this stuff, but never really did any writing. I worked in radio for a while, and then One day I had an idea for a book. I wasn't that good at working with other people. And of course, as a writer, you work on your own. And I had an idea for a book, and I wrote it totally on spec. And it came out in 1980. That was The Fury of Rachel Minette. And that led to, ever since then, that's what I've done, is write.
What a phenomenal background to prep you for becoming a writer.
Well, it was
Amazing.
very, very lucky. It's the same way, you know, I play a lot of tennis, but I never really learned properly when I was young. So although I play a lot of performing, I knew all this stuff. And so when I was reading like a book, Treasure Island or something like that, I could tell right away, oh, this guy's good. Because I had this roadmap that my mom had given me.
Sure, sure.
She died, incidentally, before I became a writer, so she never knew any of this.
Oh, that's a tragedy.
Well, it is bad, but it's also a writerly touch. It's almost typical of her, you know, to provide that. So thanks, Mom.
Indeed, indeed. And your education went on. You went to
I went
Williams?
to Williams College and did very little work of any kind study-wise while I was there. But I absorbed experiences. So a lot of, and I read a lot. I've always been, I mean, a ton. But seldom did it, you know, connect with anything of the coursework that was going on. It was just my own reading interest that had nothing to do with assigned reading. I have some regrets about that, but not a whole lot, because, you know, I met all these people and I had all these experiences, and that, without trying to have experiences, that's, you know, the raw material of a writer is what you've lived and seen.
Sure. English major or?
I was, but it was by default. It was, see, this, because I knew how to write, as long as I did the reading part, like I didn't agonize over, you know, the 1,500 word essay. I knew how to do that right away.
Yeah.
And I watched like roommates and guys who were much smarter than I was agonizing, but I didn't have to agonize in that area.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And when did you start writing?
Well, this was a few years later. I did some radio and then did that. So yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I had other experiences that I've still exploited and do exploit. Well, that's a harsh word. That still bubble up in my work. For example, in this book, if you read Mrs. Plansky Goes Rogue, you know that free diving is part of it. Well, I worked actually as a summer job, but after graduation, I worked as a spear fisherman in the Bahamas, so on various islands, so which is all free diving. You know, it's not scuba, which, you know, scuba would be is
Free
illegal.
diving is just having
It's
a deep breath
holding.
and going?
It's breath holding.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's a fantastic sport just on its own, but combined with spearfishing, it makes it much more sporting, because you have entered the territory of the fish on their terms to an extent. You know, you're holding your breath. They're not, of course. So they're actually doing better than you are. But, you know, we would do, you know, 70, 80 feet. And, you know, so there's a lot of mental control you learn. But basically it was just fun.
Yeah, yeah. Fantastic. That's great. So you published 48 books so far? This is 49, right?
Yeah, and I guess the 50th is Cat on a Hot Tin Woof, not mine, so don't, which comes out in April, and that's all done. And they've done, it's about the case concerns a cat, a missing cat, who's an internet sensation, one of these cats who's an influencer. And so much money is at stake that it can't be known that the cat is missing, because the cat's agents and the cat's promoters will find out, and the spigot will be turned off. So this case has to be solved quickly. It has to be solved secretly. And of course, Chet, our narrating dog, is not fond of cats. Those are the complications.
Excellent, excellent. One of your movies one of your books got made into a movie.
Well, that was a long time ago. I wrote a book called The Fan. It was a crime fiction story that took place in the world of professional baseball. and they did make it into a movie. Robert De Niro played the fan.
Robert De Niro.
And it was a very good cast, actually.
And Wesley Snipes.
Wesley Snipes played the ball
and
player.
A couple other recognizable.
Yeah,
John Leguizamo.
Benicio del Toro was in that movie.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Did you consult on it? Did you screenwrite or?
No, I did not write the screenplay.
Well, what was that like, though? I mean, that must have been very exciting.
What you learn is when you sell the rights to your novel to a movie production company, you have sold the rights to your novel.
I see. End of story there. Okay.
I also wrote a book called End of Story, actually.
All right. All right, let's get to Mrs. Plansky Goes Rogue, today's book. You're writing is published under your pen name of Spencer Quinn. Why?
This goes back to Chet and Bernie. So I had written, I don't know, maybe 17 standalone crime fiction novels, all quite dark, but not hopeless. And I'd written also a children's series, The Echo Falls, which was also, mystery, not as dark as for adults, all under Peter Abrahams, which is the name of my driver's license. And I had this idea, well, it came through my wife actually, about, Chet, to write a mystery series that was narrated by the detective's dog, to take the whole private eye concept that goes back to Holmes and Watson, where the sidekick tells the story in the first person, only in this case, it's a dog, but not a talking dog. Please, viewers, not a talking dog. If it was a talking dog, it would be silly. It's a narrating dog, and I hope to God it's not silly. So
Doesn't sound at all silly.
Thank you. So I wrote the first one on spec, dog on it, and sent it to my agent, and she liked it a lot. But she said, this is a lot lighter than your previous work. It's in the first person, which you've never done, because I always write in third person close prior to that. And the narrator's a dog. So I'm worried, she said, quote, I'm worried that it won't find the audience. What about we try a pen name? Well, it was a 2-book deal, and I thought, okay, and then I'll go back. We'll do this, and then I'll go back. But Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, coming in April, is the 16th Chet and Bernie novel. So Spencer Quinn took over my career, even though he's a figment of my imagination.
A victim of your own work. Oh, dear. This is the first of yours that I've read, and it was just a lot of fun. Give us just a quick overview of the plot, and then we'll get into discussing it more in detail.
Well, Mrs. Plansky is a 71-year-old widow, retired in Florida. She's originally from Rhode Island. She and her husband both. They came from not fancy backgrounds. He was an engineer, and she was a paralegal. They had 2 little kids. They used to do a lot of camping. One morning in the tent, she was slicing bread for toast, and she said, her husband was Norm. He's still sleeping in his sleeping bag. And she said, wouldn't it be great if while you were slicing the bread, the knife toasted it? And Norm, the husband in the sleeping bag, sat up quickly. 3 years later came the Plansky toaster knife.
Toaster knife.
Yes, which did exactly what she had envisioned. And they formed this company, and they made a tidy little pile of money. I'm not talking about a disgusting mountain of money that you see so often these days. This was just the old-fashioned tidy little
tidy
bundle. And so eventually sold out, retired down to Florida. He got sick right away with one of these deadly forms of cancer and died. So she lives down there. She has still a constellation of family, including her very old father, who the whole family still sort of depends on her. So in this book, which is book 2 in the series, but you don't have to have read book 1, Mrs. Plansky plays a lot of tennis. And for her age, she's good. The book starts in the senior doubles championship between the old Sunshine Tennis Club and the new Sunshine Tennis Club. She's a member of New Sunshine. The old Sunshine is the hoity-toity one, old Florida. founded in 1989. She's from New Sunshine, the Araviste one, 1995. So a Florida thing. Anyway, she has, her partner is this man, Kev DiNardo, somewhat younger but still a senior, who's a very good player, much better than her husband had been. And they're a good team. Maybe there's a little undercurrent. There's been no romantic. They've gone out to dinner a couple times. If anything's happened, it's below the surface. Anyway, they're losing terribly in this, and it's on a changeover, and he says to her, any sports cliches that would help us at this time. And he comes up with some dreadful ones that won't help, but then she comes up with one that will, and they actually end up winning the match. And they're exhilarated at the end of this. Rain is starting to fall. He's come on his bike. So they throw the bike in her car and they drive to his house with the 2 trophies that they've won clanking together in the back seat. Just a little subtle thing. You don't have to have noticed that. They get to his house, which is a beautiful modern house right on the water. There's a yacht off it, and they get out of the car. Just at that moment, there's a tremendous, the rain is, now it's one of these storms that come in late in the afternoon in Florida. There's a tremendous boom of thunder, a bolt of lightning, and this yacht, 50-footer, explodes and goes up in flames.
Which is his yacht.
Which is his. And it goes up in flames, sinks to the bottom. The fire department comes, and he said, it was a lightning strike, and I lost my boat. Mrs. Plansky heard thunder, but she did not see any lightning. What is this man, Kev DiNardo, all about? We'll find out.
We'll find out. We'll find out. All right. One question that was on my mind the whole book: why do you keep calling her Mrs. Plansky?
That's a really good question. I call her
name is Colette.
It's Loretta.
Loretta.
Yeah, it's Loretta Plansky.
Loretta.
The reason I did it is because it puts a little bit of formality and separation between you, the reader, and her, the character. And the reason for that is some reviewers have said, oh, you'll love Mrs. Plansky, a real badass older woman. She is an older woman, but she's not a badass type. She has a lot of inner strength, but it's quiet. So I began to think, actually, I began to think about badass, because I saw it coming up in the reviews often. I have a feeling that badass people aren't particularly strong inside, and that it's a reaction against it brings on the badassity. Mrs. Plansky actually is strong inside, but she doesn't show it. So she's actually quite proper and old-fashioned in many ways. That's why I did that.
She has a lot of inner dialogue too. She refers back to Norm, her husband,
yes,
and her teacher, who had a great influence on her. But seems like she's self-assured, but also self-doubting sometimes.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. But she doesn't show that. And this is a sturdily built woman of a certain age, but the sturdiness too is another thing I wanted to get across. You don't know much about her physically, but there is that. But you get into her mind, but it's not in the first person. It's what I call the third person close, which is a technique of writing where it's very, very close to the first person, even though it's third. It's like you're right on her shoulder, but you're not inside.
Yeah, you have that feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. She gets into things that most women her age would not get into, like, without giving away the plot, free diving and a little some other things that happen.
Yes.
that you'll enjoy, right? One thing that you mentioned, tennis player. You're a tennis player. I like that you provide explanations for the tennis terminology. That's nice. A lot of authors will just leave that, research it yourself. And you also do a great thing where you introduce a character, and then a few pages later you mention that character again, but you go back and explain who that person is, which is very helpful, I think.
Well, here's the thing: when you want to advance the story at all times, So I give actually as little information as possible so that you'll understand it, but actually have a deep feeling about it. So I would never describe a total, a character in total, like take a paragraph. It's just one little thing you need to know about them. And then the next time that character says something, it fits into that, and gradually they grow, they come more and more into focus for you. That's what I try to do.
Yeah, it works.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan of believable but entertaining dialogue, and if you haven't read Peter yet, this book demonstrates what a master of dialogue this gentleman is.
Thank you.
I would like you to read a couple of pieces, if you would. The setup is that Mrs. Plansky has found a figurine and a particular beer can, part of the plot, but then discovers they're missing, and then she sees them in her father's room. And this starts on, if you would go from page 62, where the green is.
Wow, okay. I may mess this up, but yes, her father, right. All right, just start right in.
Start on 62 there with the green.
Okay, yes, sir. Okay. She found him, whiskey in hand, in the little bar off the dining room, gazing out the slider at the lake, the surface reddish in the late afternoon light. Dad, was anyone? The beer can and the figurine were on the bar, the can straight up, the figurine lying down. Her dad tried to turn his head around to see her, couldn't manage that much rotation. He wheeled himself into position. Was anyone what? He said. How did those get here? She pointed at the bar. How the hell should I know? They were on the kitchen table. Check. So you brought them here? Duh. Why didn't you just say so? Not all questions have answers. You collecting beer cans now? Excuse me? Forgetting back the deposits. There are no deposits in Florida. Huh? When did that happen? It never happened. You're not making sense. Care for a drink? I'm fine for the moment. Think so? Mrs. Plansky went over to the bar and stood up the figurine. You know your problem, her dad said. You should drink more. Loosen you up. Mrs. Plansky ignored that. Her father, a mediocrity in many ways, if she was willing to voice a harsh truth, just to herself, of course, was a world champion when it came to zingers. Did he zing Clara? She had her doubts about that. What's that ugly thing, he said. Ugly thing? That brass thing. You're looking right at it. You think it's brass? Gotta be. Copper's more red. From the flea market? She said nothing. Come on. The flea market, you know, in town, across from the library. It's not from the flea market. Hope you didn't pay a lot for it. Not more than $5. It's a copy. You're aware of that? A copy of what? You can tell it's a copy because it's brass. They didn't do brass. Who? The Navajo, the Hopi, none of them. No alloys. They did silver. He pointed. So that's a copy. Proof positive. What did you pay for it? Nothing. Smart. His eyes narrowed into a shrewd expression, not becoming on him. A gift from some cheapo boyfriend? I don't have a boyfriend, as you know. There's such a thing as secret boyfriends. What are you talking about, Dad? For example, if he's already married. Do you really think I'd do that? He shrugged. People get desperate. Mrs. Plansky was not the kind to glare at anyone. She'd probably done it in her life, although she couldn't think when. But she was glaring now, glaring at her dad with what she was sure was one of those if looks could kill looks. He raised his glass. Cheers, and downed the contents. Mrs. Plansky swept up the beer can and the figurine and swept out of the room.
Fantastic.
Thank
Love
you.
it. Love
Thank
it.
you.
Love it.
That was with no prep by me, audience, by the way. I just...
Unprepped.
But I kind of remember writing that.
Yes,
so,
wonderful.
Yeah, I have an
Wonderful.
association with it.
Yeah. What is with the father? I mean, he's a curmudgeon. He's something.
Well, here's the thing. Sometimes you're writing a book and a character comes in and you're unprepared for this, but this character will take over the whole book if you let him.
Yes.
And because characters like that are always very easy to write, you want to let him take over, but you can't. So he has to be kept in restraint, in cuffs. You have to cuff him, In this book, Mrs. Plansky Goes Rogue, there are actually two characters like that. One human, him, and the other one reptilian, which, and you see, I don't know if they can see
gator
the
is
cover.
there, yeah.
This is a character in the book named Fairbanks, and he also threatens to take over the book. So I have that, that's the kind of, challenge you have in my job. Characters who come alive and are trying to hurt you.
I don't know if you can see that, but each chapter starts with a little picture of the gator there.
Yeah.
Reminds you of Fairbanks, his name is.
Fairbanks is
Where
his
did
name.
Fairbanks' name come from?
Well, okay, Mrs. Plansky lives in a condo, and it's on a lake, a small lake, and one of the other condo dwellers spotted, when out kayaking on the lake, spotted, and she gave him the name Fairbanks before quickly selling out. But why I picked it, of course, is because of Douglas Fairbanks, the swashbuckling movie star.
There we are.
Because there's nothing fair about him, but then the banks part, like the bank of a river or the bank of a lake, so it's a heavy irony because there's nothing fair about him, although he proves to be quite fair in the end. I won't say any more.
Okay, all right. We're nearing the end of our time. Is there a third Mrs. Plansky book?
I don't know at this point because
Okay.
I'm busy right now. When I leave here, I'm going back to write more of the next Chet and Bernie that comes after Cat on a Hot Tube.
Very good, very good. I have to assume that writing is fun for you.
Well, then you'd be half right. It is. It's really more that I'm addicted. So if you think of, like a meth addict as having fun, except there's no hangover or anything like that, and I still have a good appetite. I love to do it. I have to do it. But when you say fun, it kind of implies easy, and it isn't.
No, I don't mean that. I
The
mean,
work is, it's hard work. It's always been hard work,
Yeah.
and it's still just as hard.
Okay, all right. The book is Mrs. Plansky Goes Rogue by Spencer Quinn, Peter Abrahams, and you can find it on his website and many major bookstores and at peterabrahams.com. I think you'll see that on the bottom of the screen here at some point. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, please visit CapeCodWritersCenter.com or on our Facebook page or on YouTube. I'm John DeCoco, and thank you for watching Books in the World. And thank you, Peter Abrahams.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it very much. Thanks.